The comet. A long time back, King Chitrasen ruled the Isle of Kundalini. At the time of our story, he had been on throne only for 2 years, yet he had made every effort to see that his subjects were happy and contented, and his rule rivaled Ramraj. Towards this end, he had cut off all the taxes by half. The people were really happy that the burden of taxes were reduced. They praised their king in verse and song. The good name of King Chitrasen echoed from every corner of his island kingdom. This was all to the good. Yet, even as the good name of the king was spreading far and wide, the treasury began to run dry. As money dwelled in the royal coffers, the administration became topsy-turvy. The chief minister was, however, a clever fellow. He had foreseen some of the consequences. He had also been warning the king time and again. Only the king was bent upon doing good to his people, and the minister's word fell upon a deaf ear. So ultimately, the minister had to give up. Now the treasury was quite empty. The minister had to do something about it. So he approached the king and submitted to him respectfully. Sire, it is true that our subjects are happy, but then the state is a bankrupt. Nothing can be done without money. I cannot discharge my duties unless I get things done. So I request you to relieve me of my responsibilities. Has it come to that? The king asked in surprise. Is that so? We shall also decide something in the court tomorrow. See to it all the ministers and the most important citizens shall attend, the king said. The minister nodded his head, but he could not guess what the king intended to do. Promulgation of new taxes was the only way to avert disaster. Holding the court was not going to solve any problem, the minister thought. Anyway, the king had to be obeyed. When the people heard of the announcement asking everyone to attend the court, they did not know what was it all about. They began to guess according their individual fancies. Some people actually went about saying, "Mark my words, the good king is going to do away with all the taxes this time." Quite a few credentious people believed this rumor to be true. Next day, the court was filled and overflowing with many ministers, officials, and important citizens. King Chitrasen entered the court and sat on his throne. At the king's command, the chief minister addressed the gathering with these words. We have had a fortune being ruled by a kind and charitable line of kings. They have always treated their subjects as their own progeny. The taxes that were levied on us have always been purely nominal, but even these have been reduced by half in the present regime, as it is known to one and all of you. Now has arisen the question how to administer the land with such meager taxes. Someone stood up among the crowd and asked the chief minister, "Is it necessary to tax the people in order to carry on with the administration?" This question amazed everyone. The chief minister nearly had a fit, but he controlled himself and went on to say, "Compute for yourself. What is the population of our kingdom? What would it cost to provide amenities for the entire population? The sick need medicine and treatment. Growing children require education. Any moment, enemies might attack the land, and our defense forces must be there to protect us. How can all these expenses be met except through taxation? Where else are we to look to for the funds to provide our people with all these amenities?" It is the duty of every citizen to understand taxes and their purpose. At this point, the king interrupted the chief minister and said, "What the chief minister says is quite true, but it is a matter of doubt whether we can restore the old taxes and collect them easily." There were whisperings all over the court. One bold fellow stood up and said, "Your Highness, you should think twice before you increase the tax again. For one thing, it will be a great blow to the good name you have achieved far and wide. It is not a small matter that the king should go back upon his own word. Think well, Your Highness, think well." The king would see that there are some truth in these words. It was out of question that he should restore the reduced taxes and lose the good name he has been earning ever since he ascended the throne. So, the other way must be found to solve the present problem. We certainly do not intend to go back upon the decisions which was once made, he said. The taxes shall not be enhanced nor new taxes levied. On the other hand, the minister has explained to you the nature of the present problem. One, come forward with a solution. There was a hush over the entire court. People looked at each other and saw only blank faces. The silence was broken by the commander-in-chief, who stood up and said, "Your Highness, it is not very difficult to fill the coffers. There is only one way of doing it, but it is a matter of great secrecy, and I can reveal it to you, Your Highness, only in a strict privacy." So, a private audience of the king were granted to the commander-in-chief at 10 o'clock at that night in the royal gardens. Meanwhile, the courtiers wondered what was up the sleeves of the commander-in-chief. They had to content themselves with the thought that the secret would be out the next day. The commander-in-chief went to the royal gardens at the stroke of 10 and met the king. He said to the king, "Sire, our problem is to make the people happy and establish Ramarajya. It is not to be hoped that we will be able to raise a pie more through taxes. That leaves us with only one choice. Let us loot other kingdoms. It is one of the legitimate rights of kinghood. It is for this very purpose that armies and their commanders are maintained." "I agree with you, Samar Singh, but ours is an island surrounded by the oceans. Imagine for a moment how much navy and military might is required to cross the ocean and conquer foreign territories," said the king. "Sire, I shall answer for our military might," replied Samar Singh, the commander-in-chief. "Then I leave the entire thing to you," said the king. "For the conscriptions and other things, you will be requiring a royal authority, so take the royal seal." The commander-in-chief took the seal from the king and departed. He assembled all the military chiefs and told them about the conversation he had with the king. They appeared to agree with the king in doubt, but the commander-in-chief said, "You must remember that our purpose is only to cross the ocean and loot the other lands. We do not intend to conquer or subjugate them. I believe that we have enough military strength for this present purpose." Someone objected, "But while we take away our army abroad, the king will be left helpless in case of a people's uprising." "In the name of Mother Kundalini, such a calamity can be very easily averted," said the old veteran. "An internal revolution is bound to be headed by the youth. We must conscript all the youth, all the young fellows." This was considered a wise measure. A proclamation was at once drawn up conscripting all male citizens between 15 to 40, and the royal seal was put on it. The next day onwards, the military officers went round various villages with a copy of proclamation and drafted all available young The next day onwards, the military officers went around various villages with the copy of the proclamation and drafted all available young men into the army. Not all, however, joined willingly. For heaven's sake, do not draft us or take us away from our kith and kin. We would rather pay taxes to any extent, they pleaded, but in vain. While those who voluntarily joined in the army went along with the officers, those who protested and resisted were tied hands and foot and dragged away mercilessly. Some people went on deputation to the king and complained against the conscription. "It cannot be helped," said the king. "Some of you have already praised me in song and verse for my considerateness in reducing taxes. If I enhance them again, you will again write songs and verses abusing me this time. You know that we never go back upon our decisions. What we have decided upon shall take place." The conscription was over, and one auspicious day the armies got into the military vessels. Just as the king set start, the troops carrying the vessel, someone saw a mighty comet in the southeastern direction. Its head was glowing bright like a moon, and its enormous tail was flung across the sky. Soon everyone was gazing at it, awestruck. Some of them said, "An ill omen." The court astrologer too considered this to be a bad omen, and suggested that the boat should postpone their voyage and a more auspicious time had to be chosen. The commander-in-chief coughed at this and said, "I never heard of such a nonsense in my life. We have got the bravest of soldiers in the world. What harm can a comet do to them?" The astrologer tried to persist, but to no purpose. The king himself was inclined to agree with the commander-in-chief, and the astrologer had to retreat. As for the anxiety of soldiers, no one was bothered about it. As a matter of fact, there was no time to lose. An expedition like this was bound to take a lot of time. The commander-in-chief had a big task before him. He had to cross the ocean, fight his way into other countries, loot them and come back. Then only could the coffers be filled and the economic crisis averted. That was the reason why the commander-in-chief ignored the ill omen. The king too supported him for the same reason. Finally, and the ship setting sail ahead southeast in the direction of the comet.